Cool. We should be recording now, so I'm going to start if you guys are ready.
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool. Hey, this is Clint from the Doorway too. Talking to the members of, is it ProtoSequence the way it's said?
Yeah.
All right, just want to make sure I don't butcher the name in any way, shape, or form. So, cool. So, why don't you guys introduce who you are and what you do in the band?
I'm Logan. I play drums.
I'm Jacob. I play bass.
I'm Parker. I play guitar and do backing vocals.
Cool. So it looks like you guys have been around for a few years now. You have a couple EPs out from what I look at, and last one just came out just recently or is coming out right now. I kind of wanted to have a kind of question on the actual what it's called a blunt description of something obscene, correct?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Why 4 versions with vocals and the same 4 songs instrumentally on the album? I was kind of wondering why you did both sides of it.
I don't know. As musicians, we really like instrumentals, so we just figured other people would too, and kind of makes the album longer.
A big inspiration for that was, I think, at least on my end, was like Fortress by Protest the Hero. I really enjoyed that they did that. They had their full album, and then they also had a second disc. We're a little cheap, so we didn't go with the second disc, but we just decided to add it to the album anyways, and it seems like most people have really enjoyed it. So
it's cool as hell. Yeah, I was just wondering. It's kind of an interesting dichotomy of hearing it with vocals and without. So it is really cool. That's why I was kind of wondering if there was a reason, like you wanted people to be able to just focus on the music as well, or like focus on the whole picture, the whole theme as well too. So
yeah. It also seems to, when you listen to the instrumental versions, that the mix is the same, but it kind of seems to, well, it brings the music out more. It's easier to pick out what's going on. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about bass and drums because it seems like that mixed with the guitars is one of the more interesting sides of this kind of death metal. And what I mean by this kind of death metal is more the jazzy, technical, proggy side of death metal. I almost want to say like you have elements of like Dream Theater and Cynic in there as well at times where I can like really hear those jazzy, proggy death metal sides. The bass is really active and kind of all over the place, and I love that in death metal, like when it's just not sitting in the background or the drums kind of play off both the guitar and the bass. Like you can hear it at certain points at times. It's not just the drums and the bass clicking together. A lot of times it's guitar and bass and drums all clicking together. Was that done on purpose, or was it kind of just a natural progression? Kind of explain that to me, guys.
I think that's kind of was natural, just the way we kind of write and operate, and with the fact that we're only a 4-piece. So we used to have 2 guitarists, but then we figured with only one, we've got to kind of make up for it a little bit. So
yeah, and then with this release, there has been like a heavy focus on the interplay between the drums and the bass, and you know that low end really needs to click when you don't have that second guitar track there, right? So it just was a focus for us as well.
yeah, we always joke that Jacob basically became like the rhythm guitar player in the band or the second guitarist because all of his bass lines don't, like, at least in my opinion, a lot of the time I find they don't traditionally fall into the mold of what you would expect to hear in like a quote unquote death metal band's bass lines, right? So kind of meshes with the guitars and makes it a little more interesting. Whereas when you have a second guitar player, you can do harmonies and you can do stuff like that. So
yeah, I was going to say for sure the bass is more of it's a true kind of rhythm instrument. It's not just playing a bass line following whatever the guitar is going. It's 2 very different ideas kind of melding together, and I really love that when I hear that kind of tone. And then I kind of want to talk about the guitar sound for a second because it reminds me, and sorry if this comes out in a weird or an odd way and it's not really meant to, but it reminds me a lot of like 80s shredder metal. And I don't like it's just, you give me a lot of like that Shrapnel Records guitar playing. And I don't know if that makes you happy or not, but it fits really well with what you're doing. Like I almost feel like it's more of like a Satriani or a Vi kind of death metal vibe on it, where you're not so guttural and heavy on the guitars, where the guitars more shine in kind of a jazzy kind of way. So
Yeah, I mean that's a great compliment. I appreciate that. I'm not really, never really been hugely influenced by Satch or Vi or any of those guys, although they're incredible players. I think the slightly different approach to the riffs, I think, just comes from the fact that I have a pretty wide range of music and not really always sticking to the same kind of stuff. But we're all kind of like that, and we all have a really wide ranging taste in music, and I think that kind of lends to our sound a lot because we have a lot of different facets. It's kind of hard to peg down what we're doing because it kind of changes in every song, right?
Very cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I know the vocalist isn't there, but I kind of wanted to ask you guys. So do you wait for the moment that people hear the really clean kind of proggy metal vocals and wait and see what people's reaction are, like what the fuck just happened to this record, because everything's been so guttural up to this point, because like it's really a goddamn cool shocking moment to me, like to get that. It kind of gives me that, and again I'm going to say, like, it gives me that old school Opeth kind of vibe, like where you hear that really really heavy death metal, and then Michael's voice comes in and you're like, holy shit, the dude can sing too, like, you know, it's not something you're really expecting. Like, was that always planned on the record, or was that just kind of like, hey, we're going to throw this in because the singer can really sing too?
Well, I think Josh kind of just wanted to do it, and then we were all a little bit apprehensive at first because we just didn't know if we were totally sold on it. And at first, I think maybe we were a little concerned that it would detract from what we were kind of getting at. But then we just kind of said, screw it. And it kind of ended up growing on us in the end. And I mean, nobody's really harped on it too hard. So, I mean, people, well, except for us in the jam space, but people seem to like it quite a bit. So, I mean, yeah, I can imagine we'll probably have more clean singing elements in the future.
Cool. Yeah, I totally dig it. It works really well on the record. That's why I was asking if it was kind of a, you know, a second thought or not. And now that I know you guys kind of hemmed and hawed about it, it's even better because it came out so well. It really did. The next thing I kind of want to ask you is, so has it always been this Linus, the guitar player that's left, that you said, or have you had kind of more of a rotating lineup throughout the releases?
You just want to take that?
Well, so like previous to this lineup, we had obviously two guitar players. We had our old vocalist Joe, and then previous to that, you know, it was these guys, and I came along. But since the release of our last EP, we've had a pretty solid lineup.
Like 2017,
just the three of us, and then Josh came along, and yeah, and I mean, the guitar player thing was sort of just a result of, you know, our previous guitar, like our other guitar player, he had left, and we
didn't really find anybody else, or nobody else really. Maybe the scene here, I don't know. We put the feelers out, and then we had a couple people, and we just, at the end of the day, we just decided that the dynamic that we were kind of going for, we had started writing a couple songs, which became the new EP, A Blunt Description, and we were just like, oh shit, like this is kind of good. Like we're like our songwriting, we're really clicking, and it's like, do we really need another guitar player? And then just kind of, yeah, we just kind of decided to roll with it. And I mean, we'd maybe be open to it in the future, but I think at this point we're pretty set on the dynamic we have going.
Yeah, this record overall feels like it gels better than the previous one. Just from me listening to the last one to this, it feels like you guys are focused. Like you're almost all in the same mindset. Where the last EP kind of seems like it's a bunch of tracks that were put together very well, but they were very different tracks. Like these sound like they flow all one into the other. So like I just want to say, like that's you could definitely hear it with just the four of you versus the old lineup versus the new lineup. So that was kind of the next thing I kind of wanted to ask. So how the hell did you find a record label from halfway around the world? So that's going to be like Lacerated Enemy. I don't know them very much. I know a few of their artists, but like, how did a band from Canada find a band from Eastern, a label from Eastern Europe? Like, really, like, how did it happen? Do you feel like it's a good partnership? Kind of talk a little bit about what you see out of this EP.
So our buddies in the Hallowed Catharsis from Vancouver, we were going to do a cross Canada tour with them, and they ended up getting signed. And then we kind of just were like, hey, we're just going to release this record. We didn't send it out to anybody, and we're like, hey, maybe we should. So we sent it out to a few, and Lacerated got back to us, and just kind of went from there.
Cool. Is there going to be any vinyl at all on it, or is it just going to be a CD release right now and digital, or?
In the future, yeah. We have no plans just yet, but
once we have a full-length record, I think it'll be more justifiable to get some vinyl printed. And
we would definitely like to, though. We've always talked about doing it, and I think now we might have a better market for it with the label support and being able to get some more records sold over in Europe and all that. But yeah, mostly it was just kind of a product of, like, we had good friends of ours just got in contact with them, and then we talked to them too, and he was like, well, I'm looking for more bands, and I like what you guys are doing. And we initially wanted to release the album sooner, and then so we were a little hesitant, and then he's like, well, no, like, let's put it out. And he had a good plan of action, and we've really enjoyed the partnership so far. We feel like he's doing a lot for us, and we're kind of on a working together like plan of action, and it's been pretty good. And we're working on our full-length release, so that should be coming out hopefully next year, early next. It's the plan, but we'll see, how things are.
Cool. And then I kind of wanted to talk hand in hand, because it looks like your PR is really pushing you hard right now. I've known Scott for a while, so I kind of just like, he's a good dude, and he seems to be very high on you as well. What's the press been like so far? Have you seen a lot of strong press? Have you seen a lot of press yet? What has been the feedback so far on this record?
Been awesome. Yeah, there's been some people have said some stuff about certain things, but like nothing big, and people are entitled to their opinions. But overall, I'd say like overwhelmingly, unless I'm missing a bunch of it, it's been super positive. Yeah, been really happy.
Yeah, I haven't been disappointed with the reception of the record at all. People have all been saying that they really like the new sound and the new direction. And I mean, like, we rebranded too. We got a whole new logo and kind of changed our whole merch line, because we were kind of going for more like graphic designs before, and now we're kind of going for more like woodcut, like black and white kind of stuff. So we kind of swapped all that, and everybody's been really, really enjoying it so far. And it's good because we're a lot more excited about it now than we were a couple of years ago, right? So it's good to see that people are sharing that excitement with us.
Cool. Yeah. To me, the new album cover has a very kind of old school Voivod kind of esque feel to it, and I really dig that, because like it plays really well. Where I don't know if you guys feel it, but at times I feel a very futuristic kind of vibe to the music as well too. So I kind of really dig that. It reminds me of that old school kind of postmodern jazz mixed with kind of futuristic kind of tech death. So it's the reason why I wanted to interview you, because you have a more interesting sound in a lot of bands today. So I really do appreciate that. And this new record, especially over 4 songs, I've probably listened to it about 20 or 30 times now, just because I really kind of do like it. And then I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about the last track with vocals. Just simply, was that always arranged that way? Because it's like one of the most interesting arranged songs I've ever heard. Like, it almost sounds like the drum and the bass take the lead, and you let the guitar kind of sit in the background and more kind of just fill in the holes that are missing, while the vocalist is doing his really low gutturals. So and it almost seems like a new beginning even at that song. So I kind of wanted to ask the whole band, like as a whole, with the way it ends with the last song vocally, is that kind of a new direction that you're doing, or is it kind of just a focus that's been going all along?
With that song, The Pale, that was the initial idea, was to kind of have the guitars being a little less intense and have kind of everything else really flush out and make that song a lot more grittier because it, you know, it does have some lulls in it and it kind of slowly builds up. But vocally, we never really discussed any ideas for it vocally. Josh just kind of like did his thing and it turned out to be super awesome. And
Yeah.
We can't say more positive things about him. Like, he's really been killing it, and like it's so in line with where we're wanting to go with the music, his vocal style comparative to our old stuff, right? So we're not headed in a new direction. We're going to continue on with this motif. So
Cool. Awesome. No, I appreciate that. So if you could make a video for any one of the 4 tracks, which one would you make it and how would you want it to look?
I think if I could do any, it would be Bleeding the Alienist, just because it's such an intense, I would say the most intense technically and musically.
there's a lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
But I mean, like, as far as aesthetic, like, everybody likes a good strobe light and
Empty warehouse.
empty warehouse.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. It's tried and true.
Absolutely. So I kind of wanted to ask a little bit on what band drew you to be, you know, the band you are now. I can tell you what I hear, but I'd really much rather hear it from you. Like, what old bands, what current bands? Like, give me a couple of bands from, you know, your. I know you guys are young, but like your youth times, you know, your informative periods to now. Like, what really is making you wanna, you know, make this band?
We'll go down the line.
Well, for me, drumming wise, it's always been like Matt Greiner from August Burns Red, and Eric and Prada from Night Verses are 2 of my biggest influences right now. And Matt Greiner has been for 10 years or more. But yeah, I don't know, pretty much just even like just random drummers on Instagram I'll hear something cool and it'll inspire me. And I got a pretty wide range. I'm open to finding inspiration from anything, pretty much.
And then I guess for me, like, Gorguts was pretty much the biggest one. Just
Lots
yeah,
of Gorguts.
lots of Gorguts. Like any of the, like, the European tech death from like the early to mid 2000s, like you know, like Necrophagist and Obscura and stuff really pushed me to want to play more technically. Although I think less of that comes through. As of more recently, I've take a lot of inspiration from a lot more like the fusion and like funk sort of realm. Try to put that into the death metal context, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
My formative years for metal were pretty much where most people start off, like with thrash metal and Megadeth and Metallica and all that kind of stuff, because that's how I pretty much taught myself how to play guitar, was learning like Four Horsemen and stuff like that, right? Try and figure it out. But these days, a lot of the stuff that I'm finding I'm taking more inspiration from are bands like Artificial Brain and Ulcerate and kind of more of those Black Death, Dissonant Death kind of stuff, because I really find that to be the more creative thing in metal that's happening right now, because tech death I find is pretty oversaturated. There's a lot of bands doing it and doing it really well, right? So that's why I think that we're all kind of headed in the direction where we want to do so many different things, but we're just kind of like cherry picking from all over the place. Like, okay, so we want to have parts like this and parts like this, but we don't want to be known as this kind of band, right? So,
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much the best I could say for that. It's really about those really grimy, dissonant bands for me lately.
Cool.
And Warforged is the best, so they're awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys wear your Gorguts influence on your sleeve pretty well. That's I'm just gonna that's pretty impressive. I was gonna say another one was Beyond Creation. I hear a lot of kind of like similar vibes, and then not to diss the drummer anyway, but I don't hear the deathcore influences at all. And I know I read about like this being a deathcore, death metal tech band, but you may have earlier on had those influences, but I don't hear them at all anymore. Like there's almost nothing there of that. Like if I can say like you play very similar to like a lot of Swano bands like Edge of Sanity and stuff like that. You play a very like heavy
More brutal death metal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You play like a very heavy groove while you're playing, and it's really fucking impressive on the drums. And I just wanted to tell you, like, yeah, I just want to tell you, yeah, I just want to tell you, like, I really do. Like, I've read so much about you guys, like, with these deathcore tags, and I just don't hear it. And was it in like the most early influences of the band, or like, because it's not on this record at all?
Yeah, it's followed us from our first release from Schizophrene, because that was primarily like most of that EP was written by our old guitar player, and there were songs that he wrote when he was like 17 or 18.
Gotcha.
And then kind of started getting songs together. We were like, well, they're pretty good. Like, we should use them. Why not? Let's just like spruce them up a bit. And then, so I helped him finish some, and then we put out that release. And then, yeah, we were kind of on that deathcore vibe, and genty deathcore, like kind of like more technical metalcore was kind of like what we were going for, because that was all of our huge influences at the time. And like this is pre-Jacob, so as the Gorgot 10 showed up yet. but it was yeah, like more basic, because we were all, you know, really big into like All Shall Perish and Within the Ruins and like bands that were doing kind of that similar stuff. So it really showed. But then I think over the years, like with the last EP, we kind of started to stray away from that a bit and focus more on just like melody and technical stuff, but still a lot of shred. And then we really wanted to stay away from that with this release. And it's kind of hard to have a whole bunch of shreddy stuff when there's only one guitar player. And let's face it, like riffs over shred.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as I know, it's kind of a tough time to play live right now. The world's kind of shut down. But do you feel that shows are starting to come back? Because in Arizona, where I am, COVID hit pretty hard. And the state was one of the states that shut down the hardest. And bands are starting to play now, like in the strangest places here. Like they're doing like shows outside at like at drive-ins now, or like they're doing stuff at like dance halls that have outdoor stages, like where they can have like 15 to 30 or 50 people come. Are you guys going to try to start playing new and unusual places so people, because I'll tell you right now, like 7 months without live music is sheer hell for me. So like I really like I miss it more than you know. So anytime I can go see a band, even if it's some local band that I've never heard before, if I know they're playing a style of music I like, I'm gonna go support them right now. Are you guys gonna try and play shows like that at all, or are you gonna kind of wait it out till next year? Like, what's the game plan for the band?
I'd love to play some shows. I got injured at work like 2 months ago now. I hurt my arm, so we haven't really had any plans. It's starting to heal now, so hopefully soon, yeah, and kind of get back into things and maybe try and plan something like that.
As far as shows in Edmonton, where we all live, there hasn't been much in the way of these shows that have been made public in any way.
Lots of live stream. Bands are starting to do more live stream sets, like in the empty venues.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like there's too much going on around here.
Yeah.
You know, we also I don't think we really want to jump the gun and you know, start trying to pack a venue too early and
Sure.
You know, suss it out and see what happens. And you know, if there is an opportunity that came up to do an outdoor show or a drive-in, or
absolutely,
know, like yeah, we'd love to. It's
100%. Somebody book us for your drive-in show if you're watching. We'll come play your back deck.
That's awesome. I'll let me know my buddies in Arizona that you guys want to play. Maybe I can get you down here. That'd be cool as hell.
Yeah, we got a big ass deck we're in.
Like I said, we'll try. So I kind of want to ask, live versus studio, since I've never got to see you live. What's the differences? Like, what would you say is the aesthetically different change from something on your records versus seeing you live? How do the songs change?
I try and play it like whatever's on the record. I try and play that live as tight as possible. So for me, for drums, there's no change, but just more energy, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you were probably a bit sloppier live than we would be in the studio. It's not, doctored up or nothing like that. But otherwise, I feel like we've been trying really hard to get ourselves to a point with the performance where you can feel that energy in the room and, try to get that out of everybody else. And I think that's more so than an audible difference.
Sure.
Try to, bring that energy and, have it shine through there.
And in terms of the record, like we wanted to keep things really true to what you're going to hear when you see us live. Like we didn't want to add in a whole bunch of extra guitar harmonies or a whole bunch of stuff that just we'd either have to sample live or you just wouldn't hear. And as somebody who listens to music and, you fall in love with the little things and you don't get to hear those nuances live, you're going to be disappointed, right? And we don't want to do that. And we also don't want to sample a whole bunch of crap because it's just kind of not worth the headache. So, I mean, pretty much how you hear the record is how you're going to hear us live, except for maybe like
There's
with the exception of
cello,
a little bit of violin and cello and the pail at the end there. We just threw in for some extra zhuzh, but it's like, other than that, it's like a carbon copy. It's what you're going to hear live.
Cool. So I kind of asked this to every band, so I'm going to start wrapping up. But like I said, I kind of asked this towards the end of every interview. If there was one band that you would want to cover one of your songs, not you cover theirs, but if there was one band that you would want to cover one of your songs as like a homage, who would it be and why?
Oh, I don't know what Jacob's going to say.
Oh, yeah. I'd say first Van Halen playing a ProtoSequence song. Or, like, of course, like Gorguts.
No.
Gorguts playing a ProtoSequence song, but it'd probably make us look bad.
Of Monsters and Men, do like an Icelandic folk cover of one of our songs. Would be pretty cool.
Wow, that would be cool.
I'd like to see like a Jonas Brothers rendition of the Pale and just see what they do with it.
So now I want to hear that. So it's got to happen. So I'm going to see if I can get the Jonas Brothers to do it.
Yeah. Once again, Jacob said that might make us look bad too. So,
so I'm gonna finish it off with this, and this is kind of a question on the way you feel the music scene, the industry is going right now. And I like to ask bands of all various ages, various styles. So with like Bandcamp and SoundCloud and all these more digital aspects, do you feel the scene is getting watered down? Do you think the cream is rising to the top? Do you think we're seeing better bands, too many bands? Like, what's your feeling on the 21st century extreme metal scene? I almost feel like anybody with a microphone like myself and a computer can record these days. But do you feel that these bands are the ones that really are showing new interesting things, are rising to the top, or is it just such more of a struggle?
That's hard to say.
Yeah, it's I guess like I think it's great that anybody, you got a crappy laptop and an interface, you can record an album and you can make that happen in whatever capacity it ends up coming out in. That being said, I think also a lot of really good bands that maybe wouldn't have, gotten tape traded or, played on the radio, there's a lot of bands like that are getting a lot of recognition now, and I think that's great too. Some more obscure stuff that isn't so mainstream.
Yeah, I feel like releases this year from new bands has been just insane. Like, it's hard to keep up with because it seems like every other week there's just a sick EP or album dropping by a band that I've never even heard of. So it's been like, it's like, damn, we got to get some more music out pretty soon here, because like it's pretty crazy. I half of me thinks like, yeah, I mean, the scene extreme metal is becoming oversaturated, but it's like oversaturated with good shit.
Right.
So it's
Art is not a
yeah,
bad thing.
it's not a bad thing. It's just there's just more stuff that you're gonna have to swim through, and that's really not a complaint, because there's some amazing bands out there doing really wicked stuff. So I'm really interested to see what the rest of this year is going to show for music, and what bands are going to make the move from just releasing stuff online to trying to get back into the active scene again and start putting on shows. And I want to play with some of these bands.
Cool. Yeah, no, and that's the whole reason I got to listen to you, is because I got to dig deeper and got the album and looked at the album cover and said, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. And I'm honestly really glad that I did. I'm really glad I got time to speak with you guys today. I'll leave it for this. So to my hundreds, maybe 1,000 viewers that are going to be watching this, what would you like to tell them? Is there anything you'd like to talk about upcoming? Is there anything you'd like to tell them? Please, the floor is yours for the last couple minutes.
Definitely a full length is coming, hopefully sooner than later. We've got like 11 songs, 10 songs written, and we're working on them, and they're turning out, in our opinion, really awesome. So we'll be stoked for that, hopefully early next year, maybe late next year. But yeah, definitely it's coming.
Yeah, listen to Gorguts.
Yeah, that's never a bad thing.
No, I think everybody just keep staying safe and doing what you're doing, and keep putting out great tunes, and we'll keep listening and keep being influenced and appreciative of what everybody else is putting out. So music is awesome. Yeah, music is awesome, and maybe listen to our music if you feel so inclined.
Yeah, I'll make sure that your Bandcamp information and label information's below for the video as well. So to all my viewers out there, I just want to say thank you very much to ProtoSequence for doing this with me on a wonderful Tuesday night. So thank you very much, guys, and it's been nothing but a pleasure.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.